Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome to a quick tank review. This time we're looking at the Tier 9 German tank destroyer, the Jagdtiger. And really this is a very unique Tier 9 tank destroyer and it's an absolute beast. This tank has got greater upper structural armor, a fantastic punchy gun that's very accurate, capable of pulling off some amazing damage, with a very unique alpha. So let's take a quick look at its stats. So the Jagdtiger has a very meaty 1,800 hit points. It's a very heavy tank at 71 tons, meaning that in fact if you're so inclined that this tank can fit the new super heavy spall liner that was released in 8.6. Now the engine power on this tank is not fantastic to go with this huge weight, 870 brake horsepower, and its speed limit is a fairly low 28, but at least this isn't like T95 level. Its traverse speed is about on par with an object at 21 degrees a second, and this tank has got 250mm of frontal hull armor, 80 at the side and 80 at the rear. Now, to talk about its side and rear armor first, really it's trash. Apart from if it's angled like this, it can bounce medium caliber shells. However, really, it's a huge target from the side. It's very hard to hide the superstructure on the top of the tank, which its side armor is horrific, and it's very easy to penetrate. It's a giant target for artillery, and the rear armor of the tank is also trash. When you're using this tank, even though your side armor is bad, you really do need to be angling this tank between shots, because although on paper this tank has 250mm of frontal armor, its lower plate is awful. Its lower plate is awful. Realistically, 200mm of penetration could go through the lower plate of this tank and also set this tank on fire repeatedly. I strongly recommend that you use an automatic fire extinguisher in this tank, if just to lower the chance this tank gets set on fire, because really this tank does burn constantly if people shoot you in the lower plate. Now its upper plate is quite troll. It's fairly well angled, as you can see here, which means that if you're able to angle the tank about like this, if they hit your upper plate, that it's probably going to bounce. Now looking at the real strength of the tank is the superstructure. Now when I say the superstructure, I mean above this upper plate here. This is the superstructure, and on this tank it is very meaty. If you angle it, it is very hard for the enemy to penetrate your superstructure. So if you can fire over a rock or a slight ridgeline that covers most of your lower plate and you angle between your shots, realistically this tank has got absolutely beast armor. But when you think about how much of a large target this is, when you only really want to expose this part of your armor, and even then only do it when you're angled, you can see the limitations of this tank. So enough about the limitations, let's look at the strengths. And with a tank destroyer, it's usually the gun. And for the Jagdtiger, it's absolutely no different. This tank fires a 128mm cannon, and it fires 5.26 rounds a minute, with 276mm of penetration, which is massive. If you're so inclined and you fire APCR in this tank, you have a whopping 352mm of penetration, which is more than enough to usually go through anything that you will fire at. And there is some opportunity to fire HE rounds in this tank with 65mm of penetration, although the not very rapid rate of fire means that the tactical use of HE in this tank is quite limited. Now you might be looking at the 128mm cannon and thinking, oh okay, so it's going to do 490 alpha damage just like it does on the E75. However, no, when you use the 128mm on the Jagdtiger, you do 560 alpha damage with its regular AP ammo, and that is massive. That's massive. The fact that this tank has got 5.26 rounds a minute rate of fire, as well as the increased alpha damage at 560, means that this can pull off a surprising amount of damage very quickly to an unaware enemy. Combining this with its large health pool, really you do not want to trade with a Jagdtiger. You really do not want to trade with a Jagdtiger. The fact that this tank has got 5.26 rounds a minute is very useful when engaging such tanks as an enemy E75, for example. I know that I can fire twice at him and probably still have enough time to pull back around a corner, and he's only able to shoot me once. And I also do 560 alpha damage while he does 490. This tank is very accurate. 0.33 accuracy gives this one of the best tier 9 TD accuracies, and it's got a very low aim time of 2.3 seconds. Really, it is the gun on the Jagdtiger that make up for it, and the opportunity to use the superstructure of the tank that can make it an absolute beast. So without further ado, let's take a look at some gameplay. So here we can see our first game that I'm going to show you. That's where I'm going to be showing you 2 games today, guys. We're playing on Mountain Pass, and this is a fairly nice matchup. So immediately I'm thinking, how can I get the most out of this game? Because on average, this isn't going to be a very hard game to win. I'm about to show you my favourite location to start with in a Jagdtiger on Mountain Pass. I could see that gentleman wasn't aiming at me, and here you see me hiding most of my lower plate. Aiming my second shell in. It goes in. Let me just show you what I'm talking about hiding my lower plate here. Look at this. This is Jagdtiger 101. I'm hiding all of my lower plate and most of my upper plate as well. And the consequence is that my armor's fantastic, and basically, because of the lack of artillery in this game, which is fairly commonplace in 8.6, this is an absolute beast position. And the very fact that the enemy are still sitting there shooting at me just shouts to me that they are poor players. Now, you're seeing a bit of RNG here. The Jagdtiger's gun is usually very accurate, and really, it's surprising that it took me so many shots to be able to take out that VK4502A. But we did kill the entirety of his tank with 3 hits. So that really shows you that the alpha damage combined with the fantastic rate of fire on the Jagdtiger leads to a huge amount of damage per minute. So what I'm thinking now is that there's very little opportunity to shoot across that valley anymore. I'm thinking that look how many people have gone west. And I also can see that there's quite a few tanks spotted in the middle of the map, with only a Super Pershing on very low health against them. So I'm fairly sure that that's my opportunity to do the most damage, so that's where I'm going. That's where I'm needed. This is where I'm needed. So here we go, the Super Pershing's just melted, and I'm going to get the jump on this IS. Number 1, 590. Keeping myself angled until he fires. Put the second in. So now, this IS has given me a rather lovely hull down location. And I am loving it. I relocate myself. And put in another tasty shot into the T-25-2. And really, now with my lower plate hidden, these guys realize, uh-oh, time to pull back. And that is the power of the Jagdtiger. Fair enough, we can only see that there's 2 tier 7s and 1 tier 8 tank against us. But still, they're pulling back from the Jagdtiger, and they're doing the right thing by pulling back. So we can see there that we showed our lower plate, and the T-25-2 is able to penetrate our lower plate from range. Take into account that that tank is a tier 7 TD that only has, I think, about 180mm of penetration tops with his 90mm. So it makes you really think that you have to keep your lower plate hidden. We were able to get our first shot into the Tiger, doing 506. And I can see very much that my west is winning heavily, and that the enemy's north is winning heavily. And so I put my second shot into the T-25-2, killing him. Now I'm waiting for the IS-3. I can see that the IS-3 is leaving, and this means that I want to push the tempo. There's my shot on the Tiger. 527, that Tiger's not doing so well anymore. Now I'm just advancing, the Tiger's being killed by my friend. I check to make sure the IS-3 isn't shooting me, and then I begin my assault. Go for a kill on the T-95. He's a valuable and dangerous target if he's to aim at me. The IS-3 was able to put one through my lower plate and also taking my track off, but I take his track off as well. I decide that I can't really pull back effectively, and I'm just going to take the hit and get the kill. And this is where the Jagdtiger really is just an absolute beast. Just check out the DPM on this monster. Taking down tank after tank after tank. I can see the IS-3 has come back now, but I want to get the kill on this IS-8. I looked at how much health I had left and realized that I had enough. And I really wanted to get a little bit more damage out of this game. So we've already done over 6,000 damage. And unfortunately, I do not quite have time to make it to the IS-3 and pick up my Radley-Walters. But still a fantastic result in the Jagdtiger. So this was the win in the Jagdtiger. We got 4,380 experience for our double in that very short game. It didn't last that long, but we were able to put out a huge amount of damage in it. We got a top gun and a steel wall, missing the Radley-Walters by about half a second. I absolutely love the new 30% extra experience for tank destroyers in 8.6. It's made playing tank destroyers for me so much more rewarding. I feel like you can progress through them so much quicker. And also, let's be honest, it's always nice to have that little bit of reassurance at the end where you can see exactly how you compete with the others. And now it's a completely even playing field. And so effectively, you've got no excuses to not be at least in the upper half or even towards the top compared to any other tanks. Whereas previously, really, if I'd been in the middle as a tank destroyer, I would have been fairly happy because I knew that I was getting 30% less than the other heavy tanks. So we can see we missed quite a few shots there. Most of them were due to bad RNG with the VK4502A at the beginning. But every shot that hit the target penetrated. And doing 6,200 damage with only 15 penetrations really shows you the strong alpha damage on this gun, especially considering we made 7 kills in that game, and so those 7 shots were likely to be quite low rolls. So without further ado, I'm not going to only just give you one gameplay this time, I'm going to be giving you 2. So let's take a look at our next gameplay video. So we're playing our Prokhorovka in what I call a smash and grab game. Now, what's a smash and grab game? If you guys don't watch my live streams, it's not likely that you will know. When I see the XVM is telling me that it's above 70%, in my opinion, it's smash and grab. That means that my team are strong and the enemy team are not strong. Now, why does that matter? Why does that matter, you'll be saying? That means that I should play more aggressively because I want to get as much experience out of the game as I can, because I want to progress through my tanks as quickly as I can. And I want to just do as much damage as I can. That's basically it. So what that consequently means is that when it's above 70%, I know that my team are likely to roll over the enemy quicker, so I play more aggressively to try and get as much out of the game as I can. So I'm playing with Ektar and Jingles here. I feel that the best way to play Prokhorovka on an encounter game is to attack the west when you spawn at the north. Why do I think this is? I'm sure I will go over this in more detail when I do my map tactics on Prokhorovka when I get round to it, but I'll just give you a brief overview while we're loading in here. Alright, the southern team have got the fantastic hill. They will go heavily up onto the hill, shoot down into this area here, which is a big kill zone. Your team will go here, as you see them doing. They will spot from here, and they will shoot down onto here. But I still feel that having the hill is a massive advantage. My opinion, the weakness of the hill is if the enemies can take this location. If the enemies can take this location, they can shoot up onto the hill, force them to turn their turrets, stop them from power advancing, and basically put a lot of pressure on the enemy. There we can see our first shot on that E50. We rolled for 586. That was a fairly average roll. And our second one finishes him off. So now with that E50 out, I know that I've just been spotted, which means there's got to be at least one more tank down here. I want to find that one tank. I'm not interested in engaging the enemies to my side yet. And there we go. I know that the 1948 is likely to be in this bush. So I stop and I take a blind fire at the bush. And this is the guy who's been spotting us. Well played, Mr. 5916. I haven't repaired my engine yet because I've got a large repair engine pack. And we put out a pretty clutch shot there to take out that 5916. Rolling good and doing 580 damage to him. Now we can see this 1948 has revealed himself. We fire a shot, aiming for his weak MG port at the back. And we roll fairly low for 500. But still, what a Jagdtiger does. The Jagdtiger can just look at those tier 8 TDs, and it's got so much more health in them. The Jagdtiger's got 1,800 health, whereas that tier 8 tank destroyer had 1,000. I can 2-hit him, he has to shoot me 5 times to kill me, and his rate of fire is not all that much better than mine. So with that 1948 down, I really want to get this tier 10 medium tank down, but I also want to shoot this T-34. As I'm playing a smash and grab game, as I said, I really want to push the tempo and get as much out of it as I can. I see this T-62A, but I decide that he will die before I reload, so I go for the T-34. So this 5916 is shooting me in the tracks. I decided I've had quite enough of him. Picking up another kill. Now I aim at this 1390. I confirm the kill, even though he was on fire. I probably should have let him burn there, but for all I know he could have used a fire extinguisher. He was still on 400 health by the time I fired. And there we go, the double tap on the T-71. And that's picking up a cheeky 4,000 damage and 7 kills in a Jagdtiger. I feel like I really showcased the quick aim time, the accuracy, the amazing rate of fire, and in my opinion such a great amount of alpha damage. I really loved the 560 alpha damage combined with the fairly medium to high rate of fire of the Jagdtiger. I feel like it really works. It just works. This gun, it really does perform in all situations. It's got enough rate of fire when you need to finish off low targets, but it's got enough alpha damage to just scare the enemies. It can completely scare them. And as I talked about before, the fact that this tank can shoot twice for every time that an E-75 can fire at you is just simply fantastic. So I donk my way up the slope there, whoops, doopy doop, and I find my right way in. And I'm thinking, oh no, there's the Radley. And I take a punt, and it goes in, picking up the Radley-Walters medal at the end. Another cheeky 8 kills. So I don't have any post-game stats, but what's there to know really? We did 5,000 damage and we picked up 8 kills in quick succession. It just really showcases the accurate, short aim time, punchy gun of the Jagdtiger. 5.26 rounds a minute while still doing 560 alpha damage is just massive. When you consider that the E-75 gets about 3.8 rate of fire and it only does 490 alpha damage, it really hits home that the Jagdtiger is an absolute performer. And if you can get yourself into situations where you're not exposing your side armor or your lower plate, you are going to have an absolute monster time in this tank. And I really enjoy it. I really recommend it. I really recommend this Jagdtiger. Especially now with a 30% extra experience, it's just so much more of a joy to play, to see yourself racking up those high experience games and progressing onwards towards the E100 Jagdpanzer, which I will be getting fairly soon, and so keep an eye out for my review on it. So guys, if you've enjoyed this video, this double gameplay video that I've been giving you, sorry if this one's a bit longer than some of you are accustomed to, but I feel like I had a couple of good games to showcase, and so I thought I might as well. If you've enjoyed it, please rate it down below. It really helps me out, and I'd really appreciate it. And tell me in the comments what you think about the Jagdtiger. As always guys, you've been epic. Thanks a lot for watching. Think about checking me out on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby, and hopefully I'll see you soon.